A new year arrives quietly. No announcement, no permission asked, just a clear line separating who you were from who you now choose to become. Most people think a new calendar automatically creates a new life. But fear doesn't reset when the year changes. It walks with you into January, into your plans, into every moment you hesitate. Fear of failing again, fear of being judged, fear that no matter how much effort you give, you'll still end up in the same place. Stoic philosophy was never meant for comfortable seasons. It was forged in uncertainty, pressure, and moments when life refuses to cooperate. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire surrounded by war, illness, and betrayal. He didn't wait for peace to feel strong. He trained his mind so chaos could never rule him. Stoicism reveals a hard truth most people avoid. You don't become fearless by removing fear. You become fearless by refusing to obey it. A fearless life is not loud. It is steady, disciplined, grounded in what you can command, your thoughts, your actions, your character. In this video, we'll break down 7 Stoic practices you can carry into 2026. Not motivation that fades, not hollow positivity, but daily mental training that builds calm under pressure, clarity in chaos, and strength when life pushes back. These practices don't promise comfort, they promise control. Stay with me because a new life doesn't begin with hope or resolutions. It begins the moment you decide to train your mind and stop letting fear decide for you. 1. Control what is yours. Release the rest. Fear grows when you try to command what was never meant to obey you. Most anxiety isn't created by danger, it's created by resistance. Resistance to reality, resistance to uncertainty, resistance to the fact that life does not bend to your preferences. Stoic philosophy begins with a brutal but freeing distinction. Some things are within your control, and most things are not. Your thoughts, your judgments, your actions, your values, these belong to you. Other people's opinions, the economy, the past, the final outcome of your effort, the timing of success, these do not. Yet this is where most people spend their energy. They worry about how they are perceived. They replay conversations they can't change. They fear outcomes that haven't arrived. They try to manage reactions that belong to others. The cost of this confusion is fear. Fear is the emotional tax you pay for reaching beyond your authority. When you try to manage what isn't yours, your nervous system stays on alert. Your mind never rests. Your confidence erodes because you're fighting a battle you cannot win. The Stoics called this mistake ignorance of control, not ignorance as stupidity, but ignorance as misplacement. Power isn't gained by expanding control outward, it's gained by narrowing control inward. When you reclaim responsibility only for what is truly yours, something shifts. The noise quiets, the tension loosens, fear loses its fuel. This doesn't mean passivity. Stoicism is not withdrawal, it is precision. You act fully where action belongs. You release fully where it does not. Imagine entering 2026 with this clarity. You show up to work focused on effort, not applause. You speak honestly without rehearsing how it will land. You take risks without demanding guarantees. You're no longer fearless because nothing can hurt you. You're fearless because fear no longer commands your behavior. A simple Stoic question can reset your mind in seconds. Is this within my control? If yes, act with discipline. If no, release it without negotiation. Calm doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from controlling yourself. And once you understand this, fear has nowhere left to hide. 2. Train emotional discipline, not emotional suppression. Most people misunderstand emotional strength. They think being strong means feeling nothing. They think calm means silence inside the mind. They believe Stoicism is about shutting emotions down. It isn't. Stoic philosophy never taught suppression, it taught command. There's a difference. Suppression buries emotion until it explodes. Discipline observes emotion without obeying it. Fear doesn't make you weak. Anger doesn't make you flawed. Anxiety doesn't mean you're broken. What weakens people is reacting before thinking. When something triggers you, there's a brief space between stimulus and response. Most people never notice it. They speak before choosing. They act before thinking. They regret before learning. Stoics trained themselves to live inside that space. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to eliminate emotion, but to govern it. He understood emotions are signals, not orders. Fear says something matters. Anger says a boundary was crossed. Anxiety says uncertainty exists. None of them tell you what to do. Emotional discipline begins when you stop asking, "What do I feel?" and start asking, "What does this require of my character?" In moments of pressure, the Stoic response is simple. Pause, breathe, name the emotion without judgment, then decide. That pause is power. It stops fear from hijacking your voice. It prevents anger from choosing your actions. It keeps anxiety from shrinking your world. Imagine entering 2026 with this skill sharpened. Criticism no longer provokes defensiveness. Stress no longer dictates your tone. Conflict no longer controls your posture. You still feel, but you choose. This is why Stoics appear calm under pressure. Not because they feel less, but because they are trained. Training emotional discipline isn't passive. It requires repetition, daily awareness, restraint without indulgence. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you strengthen self-command, and fear begins to lose urgency. Fear depends on speed. Slow the response, and fear loses authority. In a fearless life, emotions still arrive. They simply no longer decide who you become. 3. Voluntary discomfort builds unbreakable confidence. Fear survives where comfort is protected. Most people don't realize this. They think fear comes from danger or risk, but fear grows strongest when life becomes too soft. Comfort trains avoidance. Avoidance breeds hesitation. Hesitation feeds fear. Stoic philosophy understood this long before modern psychology named it. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort not to suffer, but to prepare. They chose difficulty in controlled doses so life's inevitable hardships wouldn't shock them. When you avoid discomfort, your tolerance shrinks. Small challenges feel overwhelming. Minor resistance feels threatening. Confidence becomes fragile because it's never been tested. But when you willingly step into discomfort, something changes. You prove to yourself that you can endure. You learn discomfort is temporary. You discover fear exaggerates pain before it ever arrives. Confidence isn't built by affirmations. It's built by evidence. Evidence that you kept going when it was inconvenient. Evidence that you stayed disciplined when motivation disappeared. Evidence that you chose effort over ease. This is why Stoics welcomed hardship as training. Cold exposure, physical exertion, delayed gratification, difficult conversations, doing what's necessary, not what's pleasant. Each act sends a clear signal to your nervous system. I can handle this. And fear listens. Imagine entering 2026 with this internal proof behind you. Hard days no longer intimidate you because you've practiced them. Rejection no longer terrifies you because you've faced discomfort on purpose. Effort no longer scares you because it's familiar. This doesn't make you reckless, it makes you resilient. Fear thrives on the unknown. Voluntary discomfort removes the mystery. You already know how it feels, and you already know you survive it. Comfort promises safety, but discipline delivers courage. 4. Detach from outcomes. Commit to action. Fear tightens its grip when your identity is tied to results. Most people don't fear effort. They fear losing. They fear failing publicly. They fear putting in work and not getting the outcome they imagined, so they hesitate, they delay, they wait for certainty that never arrives. Stoic philosophy attacks fear at its root by separating action from outcome. You're responsible for what you do. You're not responsible for how the world responds. When peace depends on results, control is surrendered. Mood rises and falls with externals. Success inflates you. Failure crushes you. The Stoics refused this trade. They committed fully to action while releasing attachment to outcome, not because outcomes don't matter, but because they're never fully yours to command. This shift changes everything. You work without demanding recognition. You train without obsessing over the mirror. You speak honestly without rehearsing approval. Action becomes clean. Fear loses leverage. Failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. Information, not identity. This is why Stoics endured setbacks without collapsing. They measured success by effort aligned with values, not applause. Imagine entering 2026 with this mindset. You take risks because action matters more than guarantees. You begin without perfect timing. You move forward even when results are unclear. This doesn't make you careless. It makes you steady. Fear survives by threatening loss. Detach from the prize, and fear has nothing to take from you. Your job isn't to win every time. Your job is to act with discipline, integrity, and persistence. When you do that consistently, outcomes may fluctuate, but your confidence won't. And a mind untouched by results is a mind fear cannot control. 5. Reduce external noise to strengthen inner authority. Fear grows louder when the mind is crowded. Most people aren't overwhelmed by life. They're overwhelmed by input, opinions, news cycles, comparisons, endless commentary about how to live, think, succeed, and fail. The more voices you allow into your head, the harder it becomes to hear your own. Stoic philosophy treats attention as a finite resource. Whatever you feed will shape your emotions, your judgments, and your sense of self. When your mind is always reacting, it loses its center. Constant external noise weakens inner authority. You begin measuring yourself by standards you never chose. You feel pressure from expectations you never agreed to. Fear appears not because you lack ability, but because your attention is scattered. The Stoics practiced deliberate restraint in what they consumed. They understood that silence is not emptiness. It is space, space to observe, space to reflect, space to respond instead of react. Reducing noise does not mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means choosing carefully what deserves access to your mind. Less scrolling, less comparison, less exposure to outrage and fear-driven narratives, more stillness, more intentional thought, more alignment with your own values. Imagine entering 2026 with a quieter mind. Criticism passes through without sticking. Trends lose their influence over your decisions. You stop chasing validation that never satisfies. When your inner voice becomes stronger than external noise, fear loses its amplifier. A calm mind is difficult to intimidate. A focused mind is hard to manipulate. The Stoics understood that real power does not announce itself loudly. It moves quietly, with certainty. By reducing the noise around you, you strengthen the authority within you. And when your decisions come from clarity instead of comparison, fear no longer has the volume to control you. 6. Memento Mori turns fear into urgency. Fear survives on one powerful illusion, that you have time. Time to wait, time to prepare, time to become confident later, time to act when conditions feel safer. Stoic philosophy destroys this illusion with a reminder that is both uncomfortable and freeing. Memento Mori, you will die. This idea is often misunderstood. People assume thinking about death leads to darkness, anxiety, or despair. The Stoics saw the opposite. They used mortality to sharpen life. When you remember that time is limited, fear loses its favorite weapon, procrastination. Most fear is not loud panic, it is quiet delay. Hesitation disguised as caution, waiting for the right moment that never comes. People say they are being careful. In truth, they are afraid. They delay difficult conversations. They postpone meaningful work. They avoid decisive action. They stay in situations they have already outgrown. Why? Because they believe tomorrow is guaranteed. Memento Mori breaks that belief. When you truly accept that life is finite, your relationship with fear changes. You stop asking, "What if this goes wrong?" and start asking, "What if I never do this at all?" That shift is powerful. Fear shrinks when urgency grows. The Stoics did not use death to scare themselves into productivity. They used it to clarify what mattered. When time becomes precious, trivial fears lose authority. Embarrassment feels smaller. Judgment becomes less intimidating. Perfection becomes unnecessary. You stop waiting for confidence. You act despite uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that life could end at any moment, not to feel dread, but to live deliberately. He understood that someone who remembers death does not waste energy on meaningless anxiety. They focus on duty, character, and doing what is right now. Imagine entering 2026 with this awareness fully internalized. You no longer delay starting the work you know matters. You no longer tolerate relationships that drain your integrity. You no longer silence your truth out of fear of reaction. You act because time is not promised. Fear tells you to wait until you are ready. Memento Mori reminds you that readiness is a luxury rarely granted. Life does not pause until courage arrives. It keeps moving. This realization does not make you reckless. It makes you decisive. You stop overthinking choices that do not deserve endless analysis. You stop negotiating with fear for permission to live honestly. Mortality brings clarity. You begin asking better questions. If today were the final chapter of your life, would this fear still deserve control over your actions? Would you still hold back? Would you still avoid discomfort? Would you still trade meaning for safety? Most fears collapse under that question. They are exposed as small, temporary, and exaggerated. Memento Mori does not remove responsibility. It intensifies it. When you understand that time is limited, you become intentional with how you spend it. You guard your attention. You choose your battles carefully. You invest energy where it truly matters. Fear depends on distraction and delay. Urgency dissolves both. This is why remembering death leads to courage, not despair. It removes the illusion that you can postpone becoming who you are meant to be. It ends the fantasy of endless chances. You begin to live as if each day matters, because it does. Entering 2026 with this mindset changes everything. You take responsibility without waiting for perfect conditions. You stop wasting time on resentment and regret. You move forward even while fear is present, because fear loses power when time becomes sacred. Memento Mori is not about dying. It is about finally deciding to live. And when you live with that clarity, fear no longer whispers, "What if?" It is replaced by a stronger voice that says, "Now." 7. Live by virtue, not approval. At its deepest level, fear is social. Not fear of pain or effort, but fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of disappointing others, fear of standing alone without validation. Most people do not build their lives around what is right. They build them around what is accepted. They adjust opinions to fit the room. They soften values to avoid friction. They silence themselves to keep peace. Slowly, without noticing, they hand fear control. Stoic philosophy attacks this weakness at its root by shifting the center inward, away from approval and toward virtue. The Stoics believed a good life is not defined by popularity, comfort, or praise. It is defined by character. They identified 4 core virtues that cannot be taken by opinion or circumstance: wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. These are not abstract ideals, they are daily standards. Wisdom is seeing clearly without distortion from emotion or desire. Courage is doing what is right despite fear. Justice is acting with fairness and integrity toward others. Self-discipline is governing your impulses instead of being governed by them. When your life is anchored to these virtues, fear loses leverage. Why? Because fear depends on consequences you care about: embarrassment, disapproval, loss of status, criticism. Virtue does not negotiate with these threats. A person who lives for approval asks, "How will this be received?" A person who lives by virtue asks, "Is this aligned with my character?" That difference changes everything. When approval is the goal, fear controls timing, tone, and direction. When virtue is the goal, fear becomes irrelevant. This does not mean ignoring others or becoming arrogant. Stoicism is not selfishness. It is independence of judgment. You still listen, you still consider perspectives, but you do not outsource your values. Most fear comes from this outsourcing. People let society, family, culture, or trends define success, then panic when they cannot meet expectations that were never truly theirs. The Stoics refused this trap. They measured success internally. Did I act with integrity today? Did I respond with discipline under pressure? Did I choose courage over comfort? Did I act justly even when it was inconvenient? If the answer was yes, the day was successful, regardless of applause. Imagine entering 2026 with this internal scorecard. You no longer need constant reassurance. You stop chasing validation through achievement or appearance. You stop fearing misunderstanding. Misunderstanding becomes tolerable when self-respect is intact. This is why Stoics could stand alone when necessary. They did not fear isolation because their identity was not built on consensus. Living by virtue does not guarantee approval. In fact, it often guarantees resistance. People feel uncomfortable around those who cannot be controlled by praise or shame. That discomfort is a sign of strength. Fear loses power when shame stops working. When criticism no longer shakes your sense of self and praise no longer inflates your ego, you move freely. Virtue creates stability. It gives you a standard that does not fluctuate with mood, trends, or reactions. It allows you to act consistently even when emotions rise. This consistency builds real confidence, not the confidence of superiority, but the confidence of being grounded. Fear thrives in people who are unsure of who they are. Virtue removes that uncertainty. You know what you stand for. You know what you will not compromise. You know which lines you will not cross. That clarity makes fear predictable and manageable. Living by virtue also changes how you handle mistakes. When approval is the goal, failure feels catastrophic because it threatens identity. When virtue is the goal, mistakes become points of correction. They do not define you, they refine you. You adjust behavior without self-loathing. You take responsibility without collapse. This resilience frightens fear because fear depends on emotional instability. It needs doubt to survive. Virtue removes doubt by anchoring behavior to principle. As you move through 2026, situations will test you. You will feel tempted to stay silent when honesty is required. You will feel tempted to choose ease over effort. You will feel tempted to trade integrity for comfort. Fear will frame these temptations as protection. Virtue asks a simpler question: what kind of person do I choose to be here? Answer that consistently, and fear loses its voice. Living by virtue does not make life smooth. It makes it solid. It gives you something stronger than confidence. It gives you self-trust. And a person who trusts their own character has nothing left to fear from opinion, rejection, or judgment. Approval fades, trends shift, crowds change, character remains. Enter 2026 with this commitment, not to be liked, not to be admired, but to be aligned. When your life aligns with virtue, fear no longer decides your direction, you do. Another reason fear clings to approval is instability. What earns praise today can attract criticism tomorrow. What is celebrated in one room can be rejected in another. When your worth depends on external reaction, you live in constant adjustment. You become reactive instead of deliberate, flexible instead of principled, busy instead of meaningful. Stoic philosophy warns that a life built on approval will always feel unsafe because approval is never guaranteed and never permanent. Virtue does not fluctuate. It does not depend on mood, popularity, or timing. It does not shift when the crowd changes direction. It does not require permission. This is why the Stoics treated virtue as the only true possession. Status, reputation, comfort, these could be taken. Character could not. Fear weakens dramatically when you accept this. You stop asking others to confirm your worth. You stop explaining yourself to be understood. You stop performing a version of yourself designed to be acceptable. Instead, you become consistent. Consistency threatens fear. When your actions align with your values day after day, fear loses leverage. It cannot intimidate you with rejection if rejection no longer defines you. It cannot threaten your identity if your identity is already settled. This matters most in moments of conflict. Fear often persuades people to compromise principles, to keep peace at the cost of truth, to stay silent instead of honest, to agree instead of standing firm. Stoicism teaches that inner peace cannot be purchased with self-betrayal. Temporary comfort gained by abandoning virtue always creates long-term unrest. You may avoid conflict today, but you create tension within yourself tomorrow. And inner conflict is where fear thrives. When you live by virtue, even difficult moments feel clean, uncomfortable, but clear, challenging, but aligned. You may lose approval, but you gain self-respect. And self-respect is far more durable. Living this way also sharpens responsibility. When approval is the goal, blame is external. You focus on reactions. You justify behavior through circumstance. When virtue is the goal, responsibility turns inward. You ask harder questions. Did I act with integrity? Did I respond with discipline? Did I choose courage when it mattered? These questions do not create fear. They create growth. They turn life into practice, not performance. Fear feeds on performance, on pretending, on trying to be seen a certain way. Virtue removes the need to perform. You act because it is right, not because it will be rewarded. You speak because it is true, not because it will be applauded. You move forward because it is necessary, not because it is safe. A fearless life is not something you wait for, it is something you train for. Stoic philosophy does not promise comfort, certainty, or protection from hardship. It offers something far more powerful: control over yourself. As you move into 2026, fear may still appear. That does not mean weakness, it means you are alive. What matters now is not whether fear shows up, but whether it gets to decide your actions. Control what is yours, discipline your responses. Choose discomfort before life forces it. Detach from outcomes and commit to action. Reduce noise. Remember your mortality. Live by virtue, not approval. These are not resolutions. They are practices. Practice them daily, and fear will lose its authority. A new year does not change your life. Training your mind does. Step into 2026, steady, disciplined, and clear, not hoping to be fearless, but prepared to act with strength no matter what you